focus on Liberia. From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pokonjre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. It's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey. In diaspora. Current affairs. Reliable information. History. Talking about culture. Politics. Education. Entertainment. Business. Sports. Advertisement. Articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia.
Welcome. Hello, everybody. Hello, welcome once more to On Point. It's Sunday. It's 3 o'clock in the Midwest, 4 o'clock in the East Coast, and it is 8 p.m. in Monrovia, I believe. No, 9 o'clock, right? 9 o'clock in Monrovia. And it's On Point. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. It's another Sunday, and we have some really great topics this Sunday to discuss with you. But first of all, let me go ahead and introduce our panelists this Sunday. We have Mr. Jimmy Eastman from the nation's capital. How you doing this evening, Jimmy?
Hey, Michael, glad to be here. And Brother Towell, also glad to be here with you guys to discuss matters concerning our beloved nation. Hopefully, we will be able to shed light on issues and maybe even give some advice where we can steer our ship.
Thank you so much. Mr. Towell, how are you, sir? Where are you coming from today?
Mr. Padmo, thanks for having me. And it's always good to be on the panel with Mr. Eastman. I'm in Houston, where we solve all rocket problems. I'm glad to be here this evening.
Okay, all right. Okay, we're going to decide by the end of this show if Houston will have a problem or not. Indeed. Great to hear you. And of course, we have Mr. Elvis Morris here with us as usual this evening. Elvis, go ahead, unmute yourself and tell us how you're doing this Sunday.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Padmore. I'm doing well. Hello to you. Hello to Mr. Eastman. Hello to Mr. Tyler. The weather is really nice. I mean, we know Minnesota during this time of the year is really, really cold, but right now it's quite nice. So I'm sure yourself you're enjoying the weather. But a lot of things to discuss. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for having me.
All right. We're glad that you made it. We're glad that you're here. And we'll look forward to a couple of other panelists joining us as the show go on. But like Martin Brown used to say, the show must go on. So we have some fabulous topics today. We're going to be talking about the police brutality that we have seen in the weeks that President Joseph Walker has taken over. There was an incident on the University of Liberia campus where pictures came from there where students were brutalized. And then after that, we had an incident in Kinjal in Grand Cape County, where citizens were killed. And then we had an incident with LEC, where LEC workers, the power theft task force, along with or backed by security, state security, had a fracas with a man who was accused of power theft, and that man ended up dead. So that's the first thing we're going to be talking about. We also have the Supreme Court vacancy. As we all remember, back in November, Justice Nangbe had put in a letter asking the president to please grant him early retirement because he had not been well for a long time. And a lot of people saw that as very strange because it was after the elections, but it was before they turned over to the new government. And so people were very concerned, and they talked about it, and it was granted. And then a replacement was submitted to the national legislature, to the Senate. And the Senate decided to sit on that until after the elections. So it's going to be interesting. One key note that I got from there was that, gentlemen, we have another government official that has died in a foreign country hospital. You know, yes. I mean, Justice Nangbe did not die in Liberia, he died in Ghana. We've had so many officials, you know, and it highlights that point. Government officials are leaving the country when they are sick to seek medical treatment in foreign countries, you know, and it brings that point home. Like, when you don't have the money, what do you do when you don't have that money? And then we also have, it's already March, and the government Joseph Walker has yet to submit to the national legislature a budget for 2024. And the speaker has highlighted that he's concerned. The government cannot continue working on piecemeal budgets. There has to be a look forward. And then last but not least, Liberian concessions. What's happening in Kinjo with B Mountain and other places, including HPX, including Mata Steel and all these other places, concession agreements.
Mr. Eastman, Mr. Padmore.
Yes, sir.
I want to make a suggestion quick. I think maybe even before we start the other topics, we should discuss this whole thing that's going on in Ghana with the refugee camp. I think it's important that we address it. I think a lot of people are not talking about it, but if we have the time, we can touch on it a little bit because I think it's very important.
Okay, if we have the time, we will.
Is that your old home, Elvis?
No. I never went to the refugee. I came here on the DV visa, the diversity visa.
Oh, okay.
So you know, Memorial. I had a lot of people that came from that DV visa. You know, Memorial.
So even I
swear to God, so my right hand up.
So what book it got for the government and flash to America?
They were in Tucson, and they were in Swedru, and then when they walked to the airport, so the Irish boy, they got
I beg you. No, I bought right on EW hospital. Let me go back to my whole life.
All right, so those are the topics this morning, this afternoon, or morning, wherever you are. So let's get this ball rolling now. Let's get this ball rolling. Police brutality and deaths. Is that a rescue that people came for? Let me start. I will start on a clean slate. Our man that has been known to be neutral, I will start with him and I'll go from there. Mr. Eastman, what's your take on this, man? You used to be in that LEC family before, right?
Oh yes.
Okay, so you know about power theft.
I know all about it.
About enforcement.
We
or
ran.
You have some knowledge. Tell us. I mean, and then the whole thing about police brutality.
Yeah, we ran LEC for some time. And it's a pity that since we've left, I can't see LEC getting up where it should be. We tried to save the dam. We told Prince Johnson when he captured the LEC across the bridge, told him personally, I said, we have to go back and open open their gates to let the water out. But he had a lot. He had Charles Taylor on his back. He had Joe soldiers on the other flank, so he couldn't risk going down there, and that is why it led to that destruction. We could not get to the gates. There was an attempt, but they were ambushed. Anyway, so yeah. First of all, I want to say, have these cases been thoroughly investigated yet? Because even the incident in Kip Mount, I'm hearing that the Speaker Kofa put together a ad hoc committee to investigate. Now, the guns that were, I understand some people they were not necessarily police officers that fired, but they were hired gunmen, armed by the company or whatnot to fire. Now, when you hire people, you have to discipline them. You have to give them the training necessary so they know when to act, when they know when to use lethal fire or not. And it appears that the whole Kipma issue got out of hand. They have some big people involved, like one Bwakai is accusing Dozy, of causing the burning of his fire. They torch his house. So what where I'm going, even the other incident with the LEC, that what I'm hearing, it was not the police that was escorting them. Again, it was the people with pliers inflicting harm on this man, hitting him with a helmet, hitting him with tools, and eventually killing the man. Again, that is personnel that not necessarily are part of the police, is it? So it is concerning that this thing is out of hand and is getting wanton. And if the government does not address it swiftly, you may have the population coming back and retaliating. So even though it may not be directly a government involved, the people, the innocent people are being killed. Our poor people, our ordinary people, they are being killed. And if you don't address it, I think there will be backlash and there'll be retaliation. But I'm not 100% sure that is directly the indiscipline of police officers.
You're muted.
Oh, sorry, but and like you said, the investigation is going on. We are learning a lot of stuff. We are learning that the protection force for the plants are armed. We want to know who armed them. We have a law in Liberia that says that only state security carries arms unless you are a hunter, and they can carry a single barrel. So we want to know who trained them, who armed them, who licensed them. Are they security forces that are moonlighting? We see that a lot all over the world, where off-duty cops, moonlight to get a little extra thing. So a lot of things will come up. We'll find out whether it's a personal vendetta, because we've seen that before. People have grudges with other people, and as soon as something blow up, they pick that chance. So I go and John Brown horse. In the midst of all this, we've seen that before. We've seen people die because of things like that. But we'll find out. But yet, here's the thing, though, and I want Elvis, I want you to grasp this point, right? It's not one instance. We have 3 instances, just all within a short period of time, involving, or at least it's alleged that it's state security force, and we're not hearing anything until people die. Like, did we have to come to this point? Go ahead, Mr. Morris.
All right, thank you, Mr. Eastman. Look, before I even say this, let me send out my condolences to the family members of those, who were injured. I think there was one person who passed, and then, get well soon to those who were injured. But before I even blame this government, I want to blame, previous governments. I think one of the things we have problem with in like, bro, we don't learn from our mistakes. We don't learn from our past. You know, the people you don't expect the people to teach themselves. I think the government had a responsibility. It sounds simple, but to teach people how to protest. We've seen the devastation that has come on our country from just simple protests. The rights riot, other protests that, from the university students that led to Dole going in there and we know what the AFL did, even with child stealer Sabodi and them going in there also and doing massive harm. So protesting, students should understand protest is not an opportunity to loot, not an opportunity to commit violence on other citizens. So you have to understand that protesting is a right given to you by the Constitution, but there's a right way to do it, and there's a wrong way to do it. When it gets out of hand and it gets violent, the security forces will retaliate in like kind. So I think that's the first thing we have to understand. Like British citizens, your right to protest is not a right to resort to violence. And Mr. Eastman said here that the one person that died, again, I'm not too, okra with the situation, but the one person that died was actually mobbed to death rather than being shot to death. I think somebody was shot, but I don't think that person died. So if this person was working for this company and people were angry with him, maybe they felt like he had, slighted them or he was being disrespectful to them throughout, and they took this protest, like you said, Mr. Pamo, this protest as an opportunity to go there and kill him. At this point, what do you expect those security guys to do? That's the ultimate, duty in being a security. When there's violence, when there's trouble, you have to react and you have to act to protect lives and protect the property that you're being paid to protect. So, although I feel sorry for the citizens, but I think every time there's protest, that's why you see people get so jittery anytime anybody mention about a planned protest, because people always fear that it's going to get violent. We even saw in this country when this whole George Floyd thing happened. So a lot of people took the opportunity to go loot stores, to even met violence on other people, rob people. It's chaos. So knowing how to protest is one thing, but when the protests get out of hand, you expect the security forces, whether it's from the government or from that company, to act to preserve the lives and property of the people that they're being paid by. And lastly, before I leave, I will say this. We talk about investments, foreign direct investments and all of these things. This B mounting, people have been complaining about them. They haven't been treating the people well, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, there's this idea that if we don't treat these guys well, if we don't, the government that is, we don't treat them well, they're going to leave, and we're going to lose this investment into our country. And maybe other people will be deterred by by the stories that they will hear about concession companies people being killed or being overran and so on and so forth. So I think the president, he still has a lot of goodwill as he's just newly seated. He should have the will. They may come from a traditional background. You know how the traditional people do things. They go on the palava hall, they talk, they drink, they break cola, they settle things. I'm not saying that's how you should do it, but in that same spirit, go to those people directly, whoever the bosses are, ask what the grievances are, what they promise the people, and why are they not doing it, and then make them put into place a plan to start doing the things that they're supposed to do, and then relay that information to the people, send people there to make sure that these guys are going through with the plan that they promise the people. Just be an elder. You're an elder man and you're an elder statesman. Use some of that elderly wisdom to help solve some of these easy problems that the previous government had issues with. But I'll leave it there for now. I'll pass it back to you, Mr. Pat.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So let's just to correct something. According to citizens on the ground, the number they're stating is five. Five dead. According to the police, the IG, there are two dead. The gentleman that was shot in the leg succumbed to death. I believe it was yesterday. I don't understand how they can shoot somebody in the foot and then days later.
Blood loss, maybe. He lost a lot of blood.
You replace the blood, my man. Come on now.
Mr. Israel, the maybe all the way back there, you think blood is just readily available for them to replace it?
He died in JFK. They brought JFK that same day. That's what I'm saying. He was brought to JFK that same day. and then days later you die from gunshot wound to the leg. Come on now.
But JFK just for killing, maybe they did what they're supposed to do to kill him, man.
No, it's sad though. So let's correct that. So the police, according to the police, there are 2 dead, including the gentleman who was shot in the
Well,
leg.
you have to agree. If somebody is shooting you in the leg, they're not intending to kill you. So
Yes,
that may have been an accidental death in a way because he was trying to warn you, in a way.
it could have
Uh,
been. And nobody knows the real story behind it. Whether he was even a protester, whether he was a bystander, whether he was a looter, whether he was. Nobody really knows. Nobody really knows at this point. Mr. Tao, I know people will keep going back to King Joe because that's where people died. But B Martin, this is not the first time I hear about B Martin. We've been here at B Martin at least for the last 3-4 years. B Martin and the agreement, B Martin and Edwin Snow, B Martin and the people of Cape Man, the people of Bombay. I mean, it's been out there. The water system, where when the water system, people couldn't drink or fish anymore in the creeks and waterways and streams. So we're not just this didn't just happen yesterday. There have been multiple opportunities by different governments to arrest this situation, and nobody has done that. And yet now we have death, Liberians losing their lives, and security forces being blamed. What's your take on this?
Okay, thank you for for having me to have the opportunity to discuss this issue. Uh, I would look at this issue in at least 3 categories, right? One is going to be people that when we're talking about, because demonstration, right? And one of the first category, which is demonstration, just in general. The way in which, I don't know which one of us actually ever lived back in Liberia for some time. I went there and I stayed for a year. And for that 1 year, I used to go for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, but for that 1 year, I observed something. When you have a bunch of young people who grew up in an environment where there are no opportunities and where there is no hope, like no sense of direction, nobody's really trying to mold them, because these are the future leaders, right, of the country. The kids are always available. They have all this energy, they have all this desire, they're looking for somewhere to channel it. So the moment there is anything, within 2 minutes, you could see about maybe 2,000-3,000 people just come from out of nowhere. So like Mr. Morris said earlier, we have to find a way to re-engineer that society and the population, from churches to mosques to the government to grassroots organization, to be able to shift these kids into productive citizens, and because if they were busy, if they were doing things, if they were occupied, right? I will give you a scenario on this. I was in Liberia, and the election, I was going to stay for the election, right? In 2017, I stayed around RLJ. I went to run after some stuff at the port. I came back. On my way coming in, the road going to RLJ, I don't know who's familiar with it, the Kenija Road. I get there, the whole place is blocked. I see maybe at least 200-300 young men and women. I'm like, what's going on? I show up there, they converge on my vehicle. Why? Oh, your government official are driving big vehicles. We're here, we don't have job. Nobody's going home until we get job. People get hurt. People get vehicles and property get vandalized in those situations. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't even back off because there were other vehicles behind me. That's a small single lane area, right? So I'm in my vehicle and just waiting. Then after like almost 20-30 minutes, the police came. I don't know what they told them. They cleared the area and we went home. 3 days later, I went to Buchanan. I went to meet with some people. After that meeting, I got back. The moment I got in, I said, let me go jog. I came out, I got on the beach, I went jogging. 30 minutes later, I got back. That same crowd, much bigger, have blocked that road. They're demonstrating they don't have job. So nobody in the government is not over there. Even let's just say they want to demonstrate, but you see the misdirection, like Morris said, people have to understand how and where and when, right? So what I did was I went in, grabbed my laptop, went to RLJ, bought a one-way ticket on KLM, and the next day I was out. No. So you have this going on, right?
Yeah.
Somebody say a representative ate my money. They block RLA road. People that are supposed to be traveling, going to business, going to stuff.
Yep.
You mess their flight up. So that's one aspect of this stuff. So how, as a society, how do we need to come up with a way to where this kind of stuff stop? Like Army wives, they're demonstrating. They don't want this guy. Why aren't they at the Capitol and Executive Mansion on that Capitol Hill? Why are they blocking road that market women and people are traveling? So that aspect, it needs to be discouraged.
Mr. Tao, all that muscle you let the people run out of la bro. I you let a minute maybe the party get it next day, whatever.
The minute eating,
So that aspect is one thing that one, because that is not even demonstration. But what I observe about that is that these kids, the young people, don't have anything to do. They just sit around the moon. Anytime they hear a little sound or any commotion, they all converge and they're ready to jump on whatever side the thing is right or wrong. So we have a lot of that in Liberia. The next one is it's still a part of this, because if an LEC worker say they're moving around for power theft, in the first place, they go and you see power theft. Who gave you the authority for you to physically attack somebody? Do they have that authority? But it's the same culture I'm talking about, because most of them are still the young people. So that notion of taking things into your own hand, that is what we are seeing. So they go in there.
Yeah, you're right.
They go in there, and instead of them, okay, we see this house, we see the house, there is cell phone, there is everything. And why isn't it organized in a way where the power theft team, if they're going, why don't they have officers with them if they're going? That is like a mission, right? To where they can arrest people in a proper way instead of attacking people. So it's the same thing, right? So that aspect, they don't have the authority to physically attack anybody. And I was in Monrovia. I even applied for LEC a license to get light, right? The people that are actually leading the power theft is the same LEC people. All of the same
I will concur with that. I will concur with that.
Houses.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, no, but you give them, if I order wire, we order light pole. And yeah, we order wire, we order light pole. They delay us. They delay us because they want you to bribe them. And while we who paid, we had to receive. There were people down the street that were connecting. They didn't have any. They didn't register for anything. So LEC need to do that house cleaning from within, so that they can be able to hold their own workers and their own technicians responsible. I want to believe that they were going around specifically targeting people who refused to give them money to connect them illegally. And maybe the people connected themselves, maybe through somebody, if that was the issue. And that is like they're meting out some kind of revenge because they didn't get the chance to chop that money. Okay, so that's that aspect.
Let's move on. I think you're taking too much time.
Go ahead. Finish on your thought process.
No, I just want to point out less than 10 seconds, right? The concession part, right? Like Mr. Morris said, and every one of us said here, this company in Cape Mount, this thing been going on. And I listened to one of the programs, I think it was on Wednesday on this channel. And they were saying it was already set for them to relocate the people. In the first place, these people, entire water table, their water system was damaged. Then, do we even know how many people died from that? Because you're talking about 3-4 years they've been complaining. People want to believe people have been dying from that. If the water that they're drinking, the food, the fish that they eat, if that area is contaminated, right? Why would you want to relocate them? Relocate them for what? So you could just come and damage people's villages and towns, and you can just relocate them. So the government, the way concession is written, it needs to be changed. Companies need to be held responsible. But you see, because representatives and senators are tied into this stuff, maybe someone can get some little cut. Okay. So like Morris said, oh, if we touch them, we will leave and stuff like that. But we got to really work on that to where concessions are done in a different way.
Okay, so just for correction, the power theft task force does have the backing of the Liberian National Police. When this whole exercise started first, when the power theft team made up of only LEC employees would go into a neighborhood to disconnect people, they would be chased out by neighborhood residents. And so therefore they appealed to the Liberian National Police for security backing. And that's how they were accorded that process. So when power theft team comes to your resident or to your neighborhood, they come with the backing of the Liberian National Police, because they'll guide them. What they used to do when they clean up on the pole to go disconnect the pole, they're supposed to gather around there with stick and say, okay, come down now. When you put my leg back up, before you come down here, there'll be problems. So that's what happened. So there is, including the LEC employee that was hitting people, a Liberian National Police officer was present. What he did not do, because they have an oath to serve and protect everybody. And so what he did and did not do to further inflame the situation or to stop it is still under investigation. So let's make that part clear there. Okay, so we'll move on.
I'd like to add something 5 seconds, if you don't mind, Michael.
5 seconds.
I mentioned something on the show the other day that every subsequent administration will have their unique challenges.
Okay.
Now, Ellen faced a lot of protesters and whatnot. She did it consistently. And there were times when, you thought, there were chaos would break out, but she would get out of the car and, confront them. She knew how to deal with them. We, our government, faced some protesting, but we saw some reaction by them. This current administration, the people are at a different level now. And I think if they don't address these, as small as they look, these issues, these skirmishes, these deaths, I think it will lead to a very difficult ability to even keep law and order. So I think the government has to do a very, very good job of putting this thing in order as quick as they possibly can. There's a lot of training, probably a lot of coaching, a lot of things that has to happen, but it has to happen. It is even more important than getting light. It's training the people not to harm, not to cause more problems than they can handle later on.
All right. So speaking about the government, gentlemen, we have a vacancy at the Supreme Court. First, on behalf of all the panelists here and on behalf of Focus on Liberia, we'd like to extend our heartfelt sympathy to the family of Justice Nangbe, who passed a few days ago in Ghana, apparently from a protracted illness. He had been in Ghana for a while. But once again, it highlights the point that we have a vacancy on the Supreme Court. There are a lot of issues that we see that probably will be going to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is built in a way that it is an odd number, so that, and it's intentional, so that cases don't get caught on an even, when everybody votes, there has to be a decision. Whether it's 1-4, 3-2, 2-3, whatever, or 5, unanimously across the board. There has to be a decision. Right now, we have three justices, and the fourth person, the Chief Justice, which is an even number. And it's been a while since, like I said, since November, I believe that the bench had been vacant of a seat. Mr. Morris, what is your take here? I've already heard in the wind, people have started saying, not a Lofian.
Lofian.
A Lofian, not a Lofian. What is your take here? What do you believe
Look,
the president's approach should be to this?
I will echo your sentiments, Mr. Padmore. Rest in peace to the great man, Justice Namwe, and to his family and his friends. You produce somebody great to ascend to the justice, to one of the justices of our country is a great accomplishment, and I think he did well in his life to ascend to that position. But let me say this: I'm excited, but looking at who we have as president, I'll probably try to measure that excitement, right? Because I think this is a perfect opportunity for Councilor Taiwan Save Gonglo to ascend to the bench. I'm really excited for that possibility. But then again, I think one of the things that will hold him back, he's quite old. He looks young for his age, but I think he's like 66 or something like that. He's in his 60s, in his high 60s. Yeah, and I think you have to retire at like, I don't know if it's 70 or something like that.
Yes, 65,
Huh?
70, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
65.
somewhere in there. So I don't think he would serve long on the court. But then you, myself, Mr. Eastman, and Mr. Taiwo, do we know of anybody else that has the reputation like a Councilor Gonglo that would serve our country well, that would be almost a unanimous, plus from both sides of the aisles, from the opposition and from the ruling party? I can't think about anybody right now off the top of my head that won't cause some kind of commotion, people being against them or. So for me, I think had he been 10 years younger, I would have strongly advocated for Councilor Gonglo because I think he would make a good justice. But I think the fact that he's kind of up there in age and, maybe he only have a good 5 years on the bench before he's forced to retire, kind of takes the sting out of it. But look, I think the Supreme Court has been one of those branches of our government that has underperformed. I think looking at some of the laws that we have in the country, looking at some of the cases that went before the Supreme Court, especially during the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, tenure, I think the Supreme Court was heavily influenced by the presidency during Ellen time, and even the thing that happened with cabinet, former Justice Janet. I think, in my estimation, I think he should have never been on the bench, having served, with some of those warlords, Alaji Kumar and Willard and Luma K. I think that should have disqualified him. I said it on this platform many times. Nothing against the man himself, but I think if you went through the war and you had any participation, whether you were giving legal advice to rebel leaders, negotiating for them through peace talks and other negotiation, I think that disqualifies you. It's a conflict of interest. So for me, I think he should have never been there, but the way that they took him out was probably illegal. So for me, I think this is Joseph Boyka's first major appointment. Don't make the same mistake where you appoint somebody, then you find out the person have a criminal record, the person have a terrible record, and then you have to rescind the nomination. So I think he would he would do himself justice by taking time to search long and hard, take a couple of months to really, vet somebody that's going to be credible, that has an impeccable, legal history, and can serve our country well. But for me, I'm excited to see who he will put there. I'll leave it there, Mr. Pam.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Eastman. Mr. Morris is mentioning Tier One Gonglo. We have to remember now. The Chief Justice, I believe, is from Nima County.
No, she's from Maryland. I think she's a Grandma woman.
Okay.
Yeah, she's a Grandma woman. Former Justice was from Nima. Kwakwa was from Nima.
Okay.
Former Chief Justice.
So Tier One Gonglo has never been a judge before. He's only been a prosecutor. What's your take on this? Do you think that prosecutors will make a good chief justice on the Supreme Court bench, or are we looking at prosecutors? I know somebody had brought up the Minister of Justice, Oswald Twett, as somebody that should ascend to that position. Some people in the background are still talking about Musa Dean. What's your take here?
You know, I must agree with you. In normal speaking, you know, a judge has a different role than a prosecutor. The judge has to write opinions. Besides, he has to weigh both sides of a case. So there's a unique experience that a judge brings to the table than any other lawyer, you know. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, it will be better, I would think, that you have somebody who's already provided opinions on cases, and you kind of know his tilt, whether he's right or left or so. But in the absence of that, you're going to have to make good of whatever you have. And I know Gonglo is a fine individual, morally, yes, character. So I'm all in favor of him going to somewhere like the Supreme Court. But remember, this particular judge, this was the same judge that wanted to retire, according to the information. And we are supposed to appoint Musa Dean to replace him. And now he has died. So there's a lot to think about. I mean, you still have Jana in the background, where he appealed that he was not supposed to be removed. I think this is the choice here by Boakai will really show his hand on how he regards the country, because this is a tenured position, and it may sway the courts in one way or the other. Right now, we have a court a couple of appointees there, right, that people claim were seditious. Now, Braga has a chance to kind of balance the scale a little bit. And so it's going to be interesting of who he will nominate for this position. But I do see Gongo as a very good.
Do you see another person from Lofa? Or from the Northwest?
From Lofa.
Do you see the president nominating somebody from his family? Let me just put it straight.
Well, I don't think that's beyond doubt, if it's possible. But and that's why I say it's going to be interesting to see what he does. This will be revealing. Let me put it that way, to see what kind of administration he's going to run.
Awesome. Okay. Mr. Tao. So we've seen the president appoint people, bring them by, appoint them in different places. We've seen a lot of grumbling. Senator Darius Dillon even admitted on OKFM that he goes to the president and he lobbies for his partisans to get job. He admitted that Alcorp does the same thing. He admitted that MDR does the same thing. Basically, President Boyka is being bombarded by political allies, to get their people job. Now we have a huge position that is a tenure position that, I mean, if you appoint somebody who is 40 years old, that person has a job for 30 years straight on the block. And just to inform our audience, Consular Congo was born August 6, 1956. That makes him 68 years old. Yeah, in Yewin Mesona district, secondary district, Nimba County. So yeah, he not make it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, he will not make it. Do you think it should be a young person? Do you think it should be somebody within Boyka's close circle, do you think he should bow down to political pressure? And say you're not happy? I could be behind me from day one. They've been complaining, you know, let me just get in the position here, and so they can move from my back. What say you, sir?
Okay. So, in the first place, I don't think it's going to be fair to the Boyka administration for people to jump up that the person should not come from Lofa. I want for us to be very careful with these things in Liberia. Oh, the person should not be a Congo person, or when Ellen is there, or the person should not come from Grand Jida, or the person should not come from Basa. I don't think that we shouldn't focus along that line, right? Our goal here should be, are there people that can fill those positions that can create positive impact for the country, that can help move the country forward, that can help lend their service in a just way, right? So that is how I think I'll see it first, right? When it comes to, I don't know anybody in the whole legal circle. I know of Gongo because I follow him, kind of representing poor people, whatever was on a Taylor when Taylor was there. I don't remember anything about him on a Doe. What it was on Ellen, I follow a lot of those. So yeah, somebody would maybe, if just like you said, right, a judge, right, because you used to giving a fair balance of people will know where you stand, right? But just like Ismail said, in the absence of that, then you use what you have and you have to find the best that you can find. So somebody with his character, because we see that he actually fight for the people, right? The common people, at least from what I've seen publicly over 20 something years, right? So are we able to find somebody? Is Boyka able to find somebody like that? But I don't think they should press him even in, because when we're on this show, there are a bunch of references made to the US, right? So if we take the US into account, even the presidents in the US, they're selecting people to go on the Supreme Court based on their own interest, people that are from their corner. The goal is the person fit? That is the power of the president right there point in that direction. So that is what I would say. But they shouldn't try to start restricting him, that he can't bring somebody from Lofa, that he can be somebody from his circle. If the person is from his circle, what happens if they are qualified, they possess these things and they can impact? I don't think it's going to make that much difference. We are appointed people, right, from his circle, and they went on there. Well, they said it was sedition and all of this stuff. What real benefit did it give him? So I think sometimes we over-exaggerate some of these things.
Awesome. Okay.
Look, Mr. Padmore, 1 second, quick. Can we look at the current makeup of the Supreme Court? Who are the justices?
I was about to do that right now. So right now we have the Chief Justice, Sienna Yuo, who actually she was born in Montserrat County, grew up in Montserrat, went to convent, and then we also have the other lady on the bench, Howard Wolokolli. Her name is James Etta Howard Wolokolli. So people might hear the Wolokolli.
Why you keep calling it Howard? What are you trying to imply that?
Howard, and because people will hear the Wolokolli name.
But her married name, right?
Exactly, that is her married name. She's a Howard.
From her ex-husband, I think what a guy named Pa.
And she was born in Maryland County. She's from Maryland County. And then we also have Yusuf Kaba.
From what Riva says, right? Grandpa says.
Yusuf Kaba from Montreal. A Montreal man. Yes, he's a Montreal guy. Born right there.
So I think Nimba, getting somebody from Nimba would be right. Nimba is such an important county. Having somebody there is it's a must.
Honorable Yami Bese.
Yeah.
So to be honest with you here.
No, but that would be 5. I thought we only have 5 justices. I think he retired.
No. Wait now. I named 2 women just now, and I named 2 men. Right?
Yeah.
No, you have.
Okay, so let's go back. The Chief Justice, okay, Madam Yo,
Yeah.
who is from
Yeah.
Monterey County, and then I named the other lady on the bench, Chief Etta Howard Wolokoli, and then I named Yusuf Kaba,
Yeah.
and now the fourth person right now is Yamin Gbese, and he's from Compass City, Nima County. So to be technically honest here, the western part of the country is not represented. Let's be real here. I mean, think about it for a second. We have
You can put somebody from Lopa. Nothing wrong with that. You're the one I was saying, man. You can put somebody from Lopa. Well, they can put somebody from Lopa. Lopa is an important county as well.
It is a conversation that's being had. When you start naming your government officials, and people are looking to see the number of people from Lofa, and they are looking, this is what happens. This is what happens. People then start say, don't bring nobody from the Lofa population already. Don't bring nobody from Lofa here. So it's a conversation that we have to have. Unfortunately, in our makeup, people are very sensitive to the balance of power since the war. They want there to be a balance of. So the president can make an argument and say, "Look, we get somebody from Maryland, we get somebody from Nima, we get somebody from Moroya. It is only fair that we bring somebody from the western cluster or the western province." So we'll see how it goes. But that is that is the environment we live in today, and so we have to be true to that cause. So and Justin Namwe was from Sano County. Let me just put it out there for everybody. He was from Sano County, and so Sano County has lost a son, and once again condolences. So with that being said, let's move on here. I want for us to keep.
Yeah, but Michael, here's the thing. Even though I'm hearing this coming from this area or that area, does the area you come from necessarily reflect your opinion or reflect the way you think, the judgments you support? Two of us can be born even in the same family, and one supports socialism, the other one supports capitalism. So by just simply, if we narrow our minds to say, "Oh, I'm a Lofa man," we completely ignore very telling signs that this person will be good or this person will be bad. Because
the question you are asking is, when do we elevate our conversation from where you are from to what you are bringing to the table?
The way you think, exactly. That is supposed to be more important. And if we have to guide our people to stop looking at things that way, because it is misleading. This is how you elect a criminal simply because he was from your area, y'all grew up together, you'll elect him, and you will get bad results. We need to look at the character of a person, the substance of a person. How does this person think? How does he interact? We want to morally correct. That is why Gonglo has so much accord here, because we know his character is one of moral rectitude. But simply bringing somebody and you just because of you could be getting a booger man just because he's from your town.
Mr. Eastman, let me push back a little bit.
Mr. Morris,
go ahead.
So to avoid booger man, so when do we elevate the conversation? Because we're talking about Gonglo here, and I think everybody will agree with me here. If Gonglo came from Maryland County, nobody would care. We'll still have the same opinion that he will make a good justice.
Very good.
So when do we elevate this conversation, not just with justices, but with government officials, with elected leaders? When do we elevate this conversation from where you are from? And we have to let's be passionate. Let's recognize why people feel this way.
Okay, let me take the question, please. I don't want you to take my point. I think the second step is when we start to elevate the conversation. What do I mean by that? The first step is proportionality. That's very important to our people in Liberia. if you have five, let's say four qualified people from Nimba County, and if you look hard and and wide, you can find four qualified people from Nimba County. Would the rest of the country agree with them? They say, oh well, the people are qualified, so let them be there, even though they're all from one county. Of course not. Most of the people from Lofa will say yes, they're qualified, but we Lofians, we have qualified people as well. So the first thing is proportionality. We've seen how this cake in Liberia has been from ages, has been enjoyed by one group, and the rest of the country is against that group. Another group come there, their people start to enjoy it, and the rest of the country is against them. We heard the same echo during we had time. It was the same thing. All the people from the southeast. So you have to be cognizant of that. You have to be sensitive to it. Proportionality is something that should be reflected on our Supreme Court. Every region, every county in our country have qualified people who can serve as justice on the Supreme Court. So we can't just say it should be merit-based. Meritocracy is great in theory, but in a society like Liberia, where we have ethnic groups and we've had a history that we've had, the reality is proportionality has to overcome meritocracy. You bring meritocracy second because you bring people in based on the merits, but you have to make sure that they're geographically balanced. That's the point that I want to make, and to push back on your point, Mr. Eastman, because the reality is everybody will say, well, shouldn't matter what tribe you're from, shouldn't matter what region you're from, once you're qualified. And that's how people use that in the past to say, well, this guy's really qualified. He went to Harvard, he went to Yale, well, he's from my ethnic group. This guy is really qualified. He went to the London School of Economics. He's going to be our finance minister, but he's from my ethnic group. So it doesn't matter where they come from, but once they're qualified, they should be there. But when you look at it, they're all from one ethnic group. So people tend to resent that because the reality is other groups have qualified people too. So in fairness and in the name of proportionality, you should find people from every region or from every county or who is qualified to do the job. And if you do that, you have both qualified people, but you also have a proportional court. And I think that serves the country well. I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much. Let me ask Mr. Tao something before we move on here. Mr. Tao, we'll keep talking about tribe and region. Let me ask you. Right now we have 2 women, 2 men. Should the president entertain the option of nominating a woman and tipping the balance of the court for the first time in Liberian history to a majority female justice?
Okay. So to answer that question, I will side with Eastman on what Morris is saying, right? With respect to what Morris kind of push back on. Mr. Eastman and I think we are looking at it from the perspective not about just grabbing people from all of the same kind of from all of the same tribe. That is not what we are even talking about. What we are talking about is that the first thing that should come forth whenever people, government officials, or anybody have to be appointed or elected should not be the tribe or the region first. Man, we tried this and it didn't work. Whether it was on the so-called Congo government, whether it was on a Dole, because what happened when you start looking at it that way, what you do is you play in the mind of the population and you create some kind of wedge. So even if the person is qualified, or if they're even able to do that stuff, there is this everybody looking to criticize. I want to believe the reason that this thing is even much more of an argument is because the people that have been put in these places, they're not performing. They're not delivering. Yes, it's true that you don't want everybody to come from the same region. We understand that. We don't want for them to just grab one family. But what we are saying is that at least if the person is capable, because look, there is no way you're going to create any kind of balance to say that every region will be represented. When you start doing that, if that becomes the key or become the real metric, you will find that you will always create an incapable government to a greater extent, right? Let me come back to and so
I said that to that was one of the reasons you lost, because you had an unbalanced government.
Go ahead about the women.
Yeah, so now let me come to the women. Is this syncing up with these women? I keep hearing, right? Mm-hmm. Because you are saying this, and okay, so he should find a woman There is nothing wrong with it. They can even put 5 women on there. But do you just put women on there because you just want to have it to make history, or because what are they doing in Liberia now? That they should allocate certain percentage of representative. These are elected positions that men or other men, which is male, should stay away from this, and women should be allocated 30% or 40% of this. We're talking about, how do you do that? Nobody's stopping women from running for representative senator. Because you see, when we start going to these kind of places, you start creating unnecessary tension that shouldn't even be in the society. So again, we are not saying that grab people from one family or from one region, but the thing here is, are the people able to help the country? What we are looking for, people that can help this country move forward.
So let me ask you a question.
That's all that we are.
Let me quantify the question. Okay, should the president look at nominating a qualified female legal mind to fill that position?
I would say the president should look at any gender, whether male or female, that is qualified. If he can find a female that is qualified, that have demonstrated that meet these qualifications, nominate her and let her go there in the house. If they confirm her, then she go in there. Because I don't see where, if there were 4 females, what is it going to do? Are they going to pass some kind of law to say that, oh, it's going to be all men? No, they're still going to deal with all the same thing. If there is somebody that's not supposed to be in a tenure position, and then they bring the kids, they're still going to look at it the same way. The law is there, they're going to interpret it right. Are they going to be biased because maybe it's a female? Are they going to be so I don't think those things are really the thing. If the female is qualified, if you can find her, she can fill that void. Because what we need now is people that will help to strengthen the judicial system, that will be able to interpret the law well, that have the right mind and the right desire to help the country move forward.
Mr. Padmore.
5 seconds.
Yeah, Mr. Padmore, I want to ask you your opinion on this, because I think Mr. Eastman, even Sam Wallace, made a comment in the comment section that in theory he's right, but in practice, in terms of politics, it may not hold weight, because in a corporate setting, meritocracy is king. Yes, you want the people that's best qualified. You want people who are quote unquote, the best and brightest to serve in your company, so that you'll have success. Mm-hmm. But just the nature of politics, that people say all politics is local. That's why we have people elect their own. You don't have a national election to serve in local constituents. That's why you don't have people from Monrovia going to run in Grand Bassa County for senator, because you want people who understand those people in those counties, people who know what their plight, what their plights are, and people who understand the real issues for the people, because they live amongst them. That's the same. That's the same idea of electing somebody who comes from a region, or nominating somebody who comes from a specific region. Although they're qualified, you have to put you have to have in mind the regional balance of our government. We saw this during WIAS, when people felt left out of the WIAS government because they thought he was only appointing people from the southeast, from his region of the country. And most people voted against him because of that. They felt like, well, he was not being balanced. Our people are not getting jobs. So in politics, sentiments matter. You can't just turn a blind eye to sentiment and say, oh, it should be all merit-based. That's an ideal world that we should work towards. But as our political system is currently constituted, you have to look at sentiments. And regional balance is one of the sentiments that people cry for. You saw it in the last election. People cry for it all the time on this platform. You have people from Lofa, people from Nimba, people from all over that will come and say, look at we are government. So Southeasterners there. You're telling me there's no group of people from the other side of the country? You're telling me there's no group of people from the other side of the country? And people deliberately voted and campaigned against him because of that. So in theory, yes, meritocracy is great. But in practice, in Liberia right now, people want regional balance, and they want to see proportional representation in our government. That's the fact. You can twist it wherever way you want to twist it. But I just want to make that point. Maybe Mr. Pablo, you can give us your take, because I think that Mr. Eastman and Mr. Taiwo agree that it should be only merit-based and nothing else. No, I don't know how you feel.
No, that is not what we are saying. We didn't say it should be only merit. No, we are saying that that what you are saying it shouldn't just be that just only.
I never said it should just be. I said qualify people from different regions. That was the key. That was the caveat to it.
Yeah, because the way it started was Mr. Padmo said that there was already the conversation that they said that it should not be somebody from Lofa.
Yeah.
How can it just come and cap it that way? Suppose somebody from Lofa is capable. And I
push back and I agree with him that it could be somebody from Lofa if they're qualified.
What happened here? In the way our government, right? There was Southeastern all over the place in very, very high position. What did this translate into for the people from the Southeast or from the region? Nothing. If so, we are government were not voted out, not because he brought us Southeastern, because they didn't perform. They didn't care. If these guys actually really perform, all this stuff was not really going to be, just going to be some little, the group was just going to be little noise here and there. If they perform, if they move the country forward, if they didn't run the country like schoolboys to, every little thing is partisan, and then every little thing coaches everywhere with cutlass and him walking around when he's supposed to be clean.
Yeah, that picture.
Yeah. So if they had just worked to really move the country forward, that will not even be. I don't think.
Right. So let me ask you a quick question before we move forward.
Please answer my question, Mr. Bama. I ask you a question.
Mr. Tao, let me ask you a question. So I want to gain this from you. So what you are telling us and telling Liberians right now and telling those watching right now is that even with a balanced government, gender balance or regional balance or tribal balance, if they do not deliver, it will mean nothing.
It will mean nothing.
Okay.
That is why.
I agree with you.
That is why. Yeah, that is.
I agree with you. It will mean nothing.
Why we want it to be balanced? We should not just put zero on just the balance, and then we leave out people that are qualified, people that are able to at least do something to move the country forward.
All right. So talking about being productive, the president has put forth his 100-day plan. Okay, 30 days already gone. Right. So
70 days plan.
Now the 70-day plan. Yes. But yet the president still has yet to submit his budget. He submitted a budget for February at the end of February. We're in March now. But that was a February budget that was submitted. And now we are seeing, how do you do this? How is the 100-day deliverable in jeopardy? Is this slow start of this government going to hamper their ability to deliver? And if that is so, what would that translate to the Liberian people? Mr. Tao, you go first now.
Okay, so for me, I don't think, because we have not really gone through. I think we went through it a little bit, but I saw another show. I think Mr. Morris and Mr. Eastman. One of them were on that show where there was a lady there, and they kind of pretty much posted the 100. This a big whole stuff. It's a condensed. There is not even possible. It's not possible. The government have not even completely formed yet. You don't have just the minister. You don't have this one. You don't have. They have not even started moving. There is no real government that has taken shape. How are they going to do this? So I think they need to forget about the 100-day deliverable. They need to form the government. Yeah. They need to put, because to do that, they will be putting themselves under pressure. I don't know what really happened, where the breakdown really came from. But it's like they're struggling, just like he said earlier. Everybody coming for job. What is that guy named Tape? Tape, right? The one that was the chairman. On this show, he went over there, took little kids, tried to bring them to the man's house, to the president's house, caused all kinds of noise. And I said here on the show, are you telling me that the Liberian people that he's talking about that need job is these kids? No, it's himself. So this is the same thing when you have youth that are idle. Anybody can use them. That is why we tell the Liberian people, don't go and demonstrate for no political leader or political party. Don't take gun for anybody. Nobody should let go break this thing down, let go disrupt this country in this way, and you even agree. What happened? He pushed and pushed. He got nominated. Where are those kids now that he brought that day?
Oh no, that man, if he didn't like him,
yeah. You see that? So,
FBA.
so,
Chairman
so
of the
let
board
them
at
focus on
FBA.
forming a government. Let them focus on forming a government, right? Let them the 101, then what they're supposed to be doing. Look, this thing's supposed to be 100 days. We project it as a 6 year plan, because that is actually like a 6 to 12 year plan when you look at it. It's not feasible. My cousin was going to Maryland. This is dry season. His vehicle got stuck in the mud. 30 days gone. What happened? I mean, just between Buchanan and going to Maryland, that's one of the closest areas that no vehicles supposed to be stuck. They're supposed to have greater orders road, but vehicles are getting stuck like all around the place.
Bring that evidence so we can hold the government feet to the fire that they feel they heard the promise.
Mr. Morris, Senator Francis Dopo of River G County, on his way to River G, did come back after he got back from River G. Did inform the Senate that between Tapeta and Swedru, there were numerous cars there stuck, and not only that, but that the company that had been given the project to complete that were not working.
Okay.
And nobody could tell them why. And so the Senate right now has sent it to the proper committee so that they can summon the various.
So the president heard their plan. I feel the promise he made. Feel already. Car
no,
was stuck in it.
no,
Car was stuck
he
on
said
the road.
after the 100 day, no car will stick.
Is that what he said? Okay. Look, let me say this. This whole idea of 100-day planning, like bro, I think is almost foreign to us. People tend to borrow that from the United States government. What's your 100-day plan? What are you gonna do? It's different. When you look at the governing system of this country, you have a well-run bureaucracy that is, continuously running, even when we have a switch over of power from one party to the other party. We have people who work in these bureaucratic positions who are supposed to be non-partisan. And most presidents, when they come in there, they don't touch the quote unquote rank and file of these different agencies. But in Liberia, what we see President Boyka doing right now, he wants to pretty much flip over the entire government and put his own people there. So when you have a 100-day plan, you even start here, you just putting fuel in the car, maybe you're washing your windshield, you're making sure your oil, you're dipping your dipstick to see how the oil level. And that's pretty much what's going on right now, because he's changing everything, making sure everybody is in the right position, to be able to fulfill his 100-day plan. And before you get everybody seated and ready to move, it's almost 90 days that's gonna go by. So you're gonna have maybe another month to accomplish your plan. So I think the 100 days it was way too ambitious for the kind of government that we have. How long it takes to constitute a government, especially when people want to bring their own people into the government and remove everybody else. And people are coming in who may have never served in that position, have to pretty much learn on the job, learn the new responsibilities and how they can affect the president's quote unquote 100-day objective. So for me, I think I won't even hold this against the president, because I think it was just a silly thing that they're trying to copy, and maybe people even put that idea in his head because they took it from the United States. What's your 100-day plan? What's your 100-day plan? I don't think President Boyka would even think about 100-day plan. He wanted to come in there, put the right people in there, and then hopefully hit the ground running. So let him just scrap that 100-day plan. Scrap it. It's not even necessary, because after 3 months, if people see that your government is doing well, 100-day plan is irrelevant. Don't put yourself don't put something around your neck that's going to weigh you down. Come in there, assess the situation, put the right people in place, and then you get going. Don't put yourself in no 100-day chokehold. It's dumb.
Yeah,
I'll leave it there.
There's the thing that you have an opposition that that's not just let you scrap 100-day plan and then do nothing. They say nothing.
But that's what I'm saying. He should have never promised it. He should have never promised it in the first place. You're not America. You're not America to promise 100-day plan. Like, bro, government is ineffective and it's not well run. So you can't effectuate a 100-day plan for the government where you have to do almost an entire changeover and put other people there that don't really know what the government is doing at that moment. So for me, I think forget the 100-day plan. I'm not going to judge him on the first 100 days. Definitely, I'm not going to judge him on that. I think that's unfair. And you would be unfair to do that, Mr. Pablo. I will tell you that right now.
That's what you want here, Nick. I will bore him. I'm telling Mr. Eastman.
Yeah.
Say, as we'd like to say, send 1847 the government has always passed the budget in July. The budget year starts from July. There's a reason for it. There was since thought there was a thought process to it.
It's a fiscal year rather than an annual year.
Yes, there was a reason for it, right? There is a reason for everything. Our democracy, our government has run for a long time. There are reasons for things. But the past government, for all of their wisdom, decided they were going to change things. Now we have a scenario where the budget year is supposed to start January. And then we change government in January. And because of that now, Boyka is settled with this, that within his first 30 to 60 days, he has to submit a working budget that is already late. It is already, by the time once they swear him, when he put him on the ballot, the budget is late at that point. Is this something that is sustainable? Is this something that we can continue doing, or do we need to take a look at the budget submission again and how our government runs, and when do we swear in our leaders, and when do we even have elections?
There are several questions, and there's several things that we'll need to revisit. But let's be practical, especially when we have lives at stake. You can't do anything without money. So the budget has to be the priority of this government right now, because if you don't have the Senate consent, then you will not have the money you need to run the government. Now, as for the accuracy of the budget, this is being the situation being what it is, a new administration coming in, not knowing all the different needs and pitfalls, and I think you would get a pass if it's too high or if it's too low. I wouldn't be so concerned about it being very accurate, because, like I said, you're taking over from an administration that has been accused of not being very professional, not being very thorough, and lagging in several aspects. So there's a lot of making up you will have to do. So you will have to just guesstimate some of that budget, and you will get a pass later on. But just like you were also mentioning, I think it was Elvis was saying, you have a detailed 100-day plan. For me, I would have approached it something what Elvis is saying, with a skeletal plan. And that is because we have to sit in the seat and develop this plan as we go along. There may be some things that are not occurring to me now, like I may have to address some educational issues. The LU students, they have gotten used to free tuition. Where does this money come from? The past administration did not show where this money was coming from, and now it's a yoke on our neck that we have to abide. So there are some things that we will have to look into and do. So you start off with a skeletal plan and you develop it after the 100 days. That is why it's so important that the people you choose have to be very capable of knowing how to run their sector, their industry. They have to know how to come up with plans, and they have to know how to develop a plan based on data and information, so that they will be able to present that to the president in a few days, and they have something to go on. That is key. It's not even about friendship. The state of our economy, the industry, the school, the healthcare, it requires keen expertise, and that is because the system is already breaking down.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Eastman. So before, right, the budget year started in July. So when you were elected and you were sworn in January, you already knew what was left. You knew, because you could go back and look at the law, the budget law, and say, okay, I know this is what I'm getting into. And I have, between now in in April to submit a new budget to start in July. I have time. I will work with what I got right now, but I have time, and nobody can hold me responsible because I didn't pass this budget. So I will take this time to put my people in power, to make my plans, and to make my budget. And then April 1st, I submit my budget and get it. The legislature 2 months to do whatever they want to do. Should we go back to that? Should we change it to April? Or can we actually sustain what is happening right now? Can we sustain this January budget?
I mean, logically, you're making a strong point. I remember the reason for changing it so that I believe it's so aligned with the business year. I know in the U.S. The fiscal year begins on October 1. So I do agree. You don't want it to coincide with the changing of the government. I totally practically. I'm a practical person. You don't want it to coincide with the changing of government because something like this can happen. Now the new administration doesn't have a budget, and they are strapped. They can't perform. So yes, it looks prudent that we changed it. But whatever. But before changing something, let's revisit why they did it in the first place. And if there's no proper justification given our current situation, then definitely we change it back. I see that being very logical. You don't want to be talking about budget when a brand new administration. All that thing should have been done by now.
You could just adjust it, Mr. Eastman. During the election year, you can push it in front. But then the other years, you have it on the annual budget.
Here's the thing about that's a good point, Elvis. Here's the thing about budgets. The thing that go into the budgets is supposed to be a detailed study. I have seen replicas of budget. Yeah, they took the last year budget and simply add what they want there. No. There's supposed to be a comprehensive study into what is going to be needed based on the programs, based on the new data that has come in. And then you develop your budget from that. Not simply, it was 600,000 last year. We're just going to add something there, 100,000, and do it. And so we need people doing the things that should. Now, Liberians are capable of doing this thing, and this has been the harmful part for us, Michael. It's not that we're not capable, but nobody is showing Liberians how to do things properly so they can develop and become the geniuses they are. We need professional people teaching, showing, bringing up the new cadre of professional Liberians to take over, and that is where I see the true gap. That is where I see where we are not preparing our future, and we are doing things with a bar so low. It's simply because it appears that the people don't know that there's a better way of doing things. And even if you're not going to make them the head, but bring them into train, bring them in to teach our people how to do things in a more professional way. This thing is a science, it's not guesswork. And we can't continue doing guesswork when we got people hungry, looking for jobs, and need our professional help right away. So I think our approach has been wrong.
Mr. Patman, what are you doing about the calls? Can we take calls?
No. Sorry about the calls. The mechanism that works with the calls, I wasn't able to log into that today. So I'd like to apologize to our listeners. I was really looking forward to the call.
Unless they can call our numbers. If they want, you can
somebody volunteer. Who volunteer? Mr. Patman, Mr. Eastman, Mr. Taiwo, you volunteer?
You brought the idea up that it seems to
no.
No, I
who volunteer.
What we're figuring that out, Mr. Tao. So one, you have a president, right? The way the budget is set right now, it starts in January. So one is that I don't know if you remember this. There was this debacle that happened when during the transition period when former President George Weah said, I left 40 million, right? And then our President Boyka King and said, I only saw 20 million. And then there was all this complicated explanation about, yeah, the money was 40 million, but 20 million left in December, and it wasn't transferred over to January because it's a new budget year. So that's not how the new budget year works. And all this confusion that up to now we still know whether it was 40 or 20. But even much more peculiar is that you have President Weah who submitted a budget that Joseph Boyka will have to work with. And there's one of the reasons why we are in what we are in right now. Because the House of Representatives sent it back to President Boyka and said, look, President Weah, who lost the election, submitted this to us. It will be totally unfair that we hold you to this. The January budget thing here, I mean, it doesn't really make sense to you?
Okay. Yeah, hello?
Okay.
So, okay, yeah, the way I see this is, before I start, like what you pointed out, right? The confusion right there. I left 40 million. No, it was 20. Remember that happened on Weah when he took over from Ellen? Ellen said, well, she left what? I think like 200 million or something like that. Weah didn't say, well, 50. And we still did not. That was never or something like that, right?
Yeah, she said she left 150, but it was only 93 million.
Huh? Okay. So she said she left 150 or it was 93. That's a big whole gap. So, but was it? And then it was at the time everybody started screaming and shouting that he should audit the Ellen government, and he said he wouldn't. So you see the same thing. So you are in a system where there is no continuity, right? Okay. And I think that is where the problem really is here, right? Let's look at this. Should the budget, because they say, oh, this was Weah's agenda, or this was Ellen's agenda, or this is supposed to be Boyka's agenda. It said Boyka's agenda. It said the agenda that is being put forth by the man that is hired to lead the country. That agenda should be Liberia's agenda, right? Whatever is on the budget. So if Weah did his budget, let's just say, and everything on there was to work in the interest of Liberia, if it was road building, if it was power generation, if it was health and education, why should this new government push back on it?
Well, let me ask you this. So what if Weah's agenda was to build parks, and Joseph Boyka coming in and seeing roads? Should Joseph Boyka be tied down with building parks when he has campaigned and promised road, or should he have the freedom to abandon Weah's that what you doing? To abandon Weah's agenda and say, you know, happy? The reason why you love that the same thing that I'm coming be following behind you, park. I'm going for a road.
Government is continuity,
Yeah,
right?
you have a very good point. Yeah, you have a very good point, right? But I don't think we are trying to hold the Boyka government when it comes to the budget. But the executive don't have the power to reject the budget. It was the House, right?
Yeah.
And the CDC government, I mean, party make up from what have been said here. They have the largest, right? Single.
Yes.
So it was the House that sent the bill back, I mean the budget back to the executive. So the Boyka government really cannot be held responsible for that. Then we can say they need to move a little faster.
I agree with you. And before we move forward,
they send it back.
Boyka could have just signed it and sent it back to them and say that the budget go ahead pass it. But he held on to it because he
but like Padmo just said. Like Padmo just said, I mean, it's a detailed study, right? So he's supposed to be able to look at it. Like you said, you have a very strong point. What happens if all about building parks and football field that make up maybe 30%, and that money could be going to maybe healthcare and other stuff? So they need to reject it, right? But it was really not the executive that rejected that.
No.
It was the House.
Yes.
So they sent it back. Now, if the government that is struggling to even get off the ground, and then they have budget on their hand, then they have all these demonstrations. So it's just so much going on. It's one thing people say that he's very experienced, that the president is very experienced. You probably your experience is you hung around government, right? But when you actually have to sit in the driver's seat, and now you have to deal with all of these different factors that you really never had to deal with. And then we have to realize that the president, based on his age, I don't think he is what it takes to run an actual country, the kind of energy that you need, the kind of quickness. I think it's always going to be a problem.
The people said Joseph Butler can go to bed at 8 o'clock in the afternoon. So I don't know. Maybe you have to adjust the bedtime to like 12 o'clock, because presidents usually stay up till like 3 o'clock in the morning before they go to bed. And we know some of us
What are they doing at 3 o'clock?
The country don't start running at 12 o'clock. You got to be up. News are coming in. People are giving information, some security information. You got to be up. You can't say, "Oh, the president's sleeping there, wait till the morning." No, you got to get it right when they need to give it to you. That's part of your job. That's why being president is not an easy thing. That's why Ronald Reagan said, "Who do you want to be there to pick up the phone at 3 a.m. in the morning?" There's a boy got to be deep in sleep at 3 a.m. in the morning. Support. Yeah, you're not gonna do it again. Wake up, the deep in sleep, you're dreaming. So. But look, let me just come here quickly.
Hold on before you come here. When you're talking about phone business. So I posted. This is not my number, people. You don't call me.
That is number. You're calling.
This is not my number. So you're just wasting time. But the number has been posted. The number is 763-807-5740. So you can call this number. It will be open for the next 10 minutes. If you call this number, we will be able to bring you on to make a comment while we continue to discuss. Okay. We have one final topic. I want for us to get to this topic. We have about 10 minutes before we start our closing. Liberia and concession agreements. We all know the history of Liberia and concessions, starting with Firestone. Mm-hmm. And we know how Firestone brought Pusawa rest. And today we struggle to feed ourselves because of Pusawa Rex. We saw Lamco, we saw LMC, we saw bone mines. We've seen so many concessions, yet our people continue to live in utter poverty. And now we are seeing once more Bee Mountain and the people complaining. Oh, you promised us this, you promised us that, you promised us the other one, you are not delivering. At the same time, we continue to see governments, not just Boyka government, not just WIA government, not just Ellen government, not just Chancellor government, but we continue to see Liberian governments. Once a company comes in and hints, oh, I want to sign a concession agreement with you, we'll come with a laundry list. We want for you to build school, we want for you to build hospital, we want for you to build our road, we want for you to divide rest among our people. We have this laundry list that we give to them, and we expect them to live true to that. And our history tells us that that is a struggle, and that has never really helped us move forward as a country or help us pull out of poverty. Mr. Eastman, I'll come back to you on this. Concession agreements. Are we getting the short end of the stick, or are we just, or it's just unreasonable expectations?
Well, let's very be honest about this thing. There's a lot that goes into a concession agreement, and when you're negotiating these agreements, you better have the smartest and brightest there, because these things are binding. A contract. It's a binding contract that may last many, many years. So if you sign a contract that, okay, you can take my iron ore or you can take anything that's theirs, if you don't look at the fine line, and when they start taking your gold, your diamond, and other stuff, when they start leaving pit holes and contaminating your environment, then who will you blame? When you're going, if you're going to get into a concession agreement, you have to have the people who know all the side effects, the long-term effects, the by effects of what's going to happen. You just don't have politicians signing these agreements. And that is essentially what has been wrong. We have had politicians signing economic agreements that they know nothing about, mining agreements that they have no idea, no skill, no education in the field. And as long as we're going to continue having ill-informed people committing our resources to the foreign world, we will always have this problem. Let's look at Firestone, good example. At the time, the Firestone agreement, we were strapped for cash. They wanted to liquidate us because we couldn't pay the England's debt that they had, the draconian loan they had gave us, $500,000 loan. We only received $75,000. Yes. So the whole idea was to strangulate this burgeoning African country, the beam of Africa, that Africans can rule themselves. So the whole design was to cripple us. So Firestone came. The deal that Firestone took was really the deal we were offering the U.S. government, to take over. We were even giving them the frontier force. That time we didn't have army. We have frontier force. They take over everything. Take it over to the bank, but just help us pay this debt. So Firestone stepped in and took the debt. But what did we give them? We gave them everything. We gave them the key to the crown jewels. We were forced. We didn't even say they're going to pay our people proper wages. The wages they paid our people were less than half of what they pay in the region. In other words, the colonial powers next door in Sierra Leone, in Ivory Coast, they were paying people more than Firestone were paying people in Liberia. So how will they survive? Why are you paying them more? It was another almost like slave labor they were looking for. So if the people who signed that agreement should have seen that and not agreed to it. So until we have people who are informed, or until we get our government to bring people who know what they're signing before they, just to inform them, just to let them know, say, if you sign this, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to become. If until we start doing that, we'll always have this problem.
Okay, Mr. Ismail, hold on one second. So we have a caller on the line. A caller, go ahead. Tell us your name and where you're calling from. And make your contribution.
Good evening. This is Brigable Powell.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the show. I follow you guys and I've been following the show. I don't want to, because I continue my point. I don't want to do a correction on my brother. Yes, sir. I listen to the producer saying that for now it's not a matter of if every government official or key government official can come to the county or any county, it doesn't matter. Think how much they can produce. So they have issue with it. Because the whole point about people appointed from one country is not because they're not producing. We are looking at the country to be part in the government, which means if they take part in the government, the citizens that in that country will feel that they are part of the government. That's what we're looking at. We're not looking at whether the person perform. So the campaign that people preach, it was not because the citizens are not performing. The whole notion is the citizen government was for Southeastern. So it's not come from because they come from the other side, you should twist it in the other way. So I'm not saying it's not necessary.
Yeah, but I got a question for you. So if the people do a bad job, the people will still be happy?
Even if they don't do a bad job, it's wrong. To gather one country to produce all major government officials, it's wrong. Whether they produce or good or bad. All the administration from one country or from one region is not necessary. You have a country, you don't have a country. So everybody has to take part. And
Okay.
let's go on the budget.
Okay. Go ahead.
The budget issue. The budget was not seriously that change the budget around. The budget is because it's all the Arabian countries. The budget they are running on annual budget. They're not running on fiscal budget. So because of that, CC were forced to join them to have it annual. And the budget was already passed sent by the former president to the House. Because the reason that the Unified Prime Minister, they want to do it with their own budget to run the government. So that one, everybody accept it. But the reason I made that they're not working on with the budget is difficult to get through is because many of the ministry that's all crack their own budget, they're not being appointed. So all those agencies or those directors that's all make their own budget, they are not being seated. So it's difficult for them to make their own budget to send it to the president or send it to the prime minister.
That's a good point.
You see?
Yeah.
So you cannot blame the former president or blame any past regime. They're not in power for the day. Say almost one now. They're not the whole government. Even the key hierarchy. Look at justice minister. Some of the key ministry are not being sister. They're not being confirmed. So you can't blame past regime or blame you're not represented. The president are in power or the government are in power, they should be blamed because they are not settled. So the budget will be conducted
In limbo. Yeah, the budget's in limbo.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for calling. All right. That was Brigadier Powell, and he was giving some salient points. I will agree. He was giving some salient points. But that's what we come back to in the whole thing is that if we have a budget that should be worked on and passed within this period of time when the president is trying to create his government, then you got to create a government. You got to appoint people. The people have to be confirmed. And then they have to be, what do you call it?
Familiarize with the ministry, formulate a budget.
Yes, and then familiarize themselves with the ministry. Then before they send a budget to the president, then before the president submit that budget to, I think the 1847 people got it right. That's just my thing there. The 1847 people that said, let's do it here in July, they got it right.
But the word changed, Mr. Pavlov, so people have to conform.
Well, my man, just because word cheese not so work and cheap for stupid. Just because people did the word cheese. But Mr. Morris, please on concessions. What is your thing here? I mean, come on now. Go to bomb mines. When bomb people left, 0. When Lamco people left, 0. When LMC left bombing, they came bombing from bombing hills into bombing holes. That was a nickname for bombing. Concession. Right.
So full disclosure, right?
Yeah.
My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, worked for Lamco in Yekepa there. My mom, her entire family grew up in Yekepa. And they always talk about it, especially my mom. She always tell me how great it was growing up there. They had their own days, they had a freeze, the refrigerator, other things that was uncommon for most people in Liberia at the time. They had it, and they had a pretty decent life. But all of those things are temporary, because once Lamco went down, it lost all of those things. It was not theirs to behold permanently. But let me say this: concessions do not develop countries. They don't. The thing that will develop your country is reoccurring taxes from corporations that relocate to your country. That's why you saw China was so big on having American companies and European companies go into China, so that it will have a cheap labor base, but China could tax them. And that tax was coming directly to the Chinese government, and they were using that money to develop their country. So instead of looking at concession, I think we need to move forward to having companies relocate to Liberia, give them incentive of having a quote unquote cheap labor base, because if somebody in Liberia is making $5 US, an hour, that's way more than they're making now, where people are getting paid $100 a month. So you get a cheap labor base instead of having to come in the United States and pay somebody $15 an hour. You're paying a third of that in Liberia. But then the government can tax you on a yearly basis. Even if it's $50 million in taxes or $30 million in taxes, that's a steady income of tax that the government can use to better the lives of the citizens. And then, so I think concession, again, as a whole, is not something that should be our long-term goal. We should move away from concession and try to invite companies to come set up in Liberia, have a low wage working force, a relatively low wage compared to the West and Europe, but at the same time have a good tax system where we can tax them, at a steady rate, and the government get more money that way, and then you can build and develop the country by taxing these companies, make it attractive for them to come to the country, and then tax them. Not concession. Concession have never worked for us. It's never going to work. We need to deviate from it and have companies relocate to Liberia and tax those companies for years to come. That would be the best solution.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Mr. Tao, should we forget concessions? Should we walk away from concessions? Are this thing is this a way to freedom, or is it just furthering enslaving us and our people?
I am really glad for the first time. Something that I've been echoing here. I'm glad that Morris is actually echoing exactly the same thing. Because from the very first time that I came here, and you see, when you heard about the carbon trading, that is actually concession in some form. Mm-hmm. You are leasing over your entire forest so that somebody take over it and control it and restrict you. Just these are all concessions, right? But he is very right. This is what I've been saying here. But to just correct a point when he mentioned about China, right? Or to add something to it. China situation was a little bit different because when the Western companies went there, they didn't just go there only to just tap into just a low wage. They went into partnership. But I started the whole Chinese stuff. They went into partnership. They came in the West when it started. They had a higher percentage, but there were Chinese investors and people. Whether they would say, oh, they came from the state, whatever it was, they formed partnership for the companies to go in there. Now look at what Liberia is, in particular in Africa in general, right? Concession in many forms is criminal. You are taking over the country resources, handing it over. A concession-based economy can never lead to development. You have to have an industrial-based economy. That is what China was when the West started going in the 70s. Mm-hmm. You bring in industry. So what we need to be doing, the kind of agreement we need to be signing, whether it's Liberian government or individuals that are in Liberia that have the resources to go into joint venture. Say Asla Meta, let them build the steel plant. There, they mine the iron ore there, they add value to it and turn it into something, right? What that does is it creates jobs because now you have industry, so you have to train experts. You have to train people on so many different levels. Just one steel plant, all of the service industry that will be connected to that. Hundreds of thousands. What is food? What is lodging? What is transportation? What is huge, right? But there is a reason. It's not that they don't know this. Why our own people are not capable in terms of, when I mean not capable, they don't have the interest, right? Everybody wants to just grab a little bit, put it in their pocket. So nobody wants to really sign that, right? But one of the reasons is not just the West, though, but the rest of the world. There is a reason why they really have not tried to go that route with Africa, that they push Africa to stay into concession. This is because when the West went to China, what does China have? It was only labor. All of the factories that were in China, where were the resources coming from? From out of Africa. Now, tell me, if they come to you and they try to create a industrial-based economy in Africa, what does that do? The resources will be used in Africa, at least. You see that? And they need it. So it don't work in their favor. So Africa will have to struggle for this. We have to.
Right. Let me push back a little bit. I agree.
We're running out of time, so you got 30 seconds.
Yeah, I got 30. I agree with Tahoe that we shouldn't just supply raw material. I think that the argument there is more just being the supply of raw material. But the concession agreement requires a robust governance and mechanisms to monitor what we're doing. You can't just sign any kind of concession agreement and expect it to work. You see, first of all, you need transparency. A lot of these agreements that they have signed, people got kickbacks. That's why they didn't care what they were signing. You understand? You need transparency. You need accountability measures. You need stakeholder engagement. You need consultation and there's so many things that should go into these agreements. I agree. These countries are coming to get what they can. That is why you have to know what you're signing to make it work for you. We could, for the other day, we had Dr. Moba on the show. He's a mining engineer, and right now he's in data science. He said, look, instead of these people paying us royalties, the pellets that they get from the mines, the pellets, let them pay us in pellets, and then we take those pellets and then we do a value added instead of taking the money. Okay. It all depends on how we set ourselves up for failure. Also, you know.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Please advertise the show this afternoon. Hello, Pastor Part 2 on tithe and offerings. You getting me?
Yep.
You muted.
I got what you said. Usually they send me the banner. I'll see if I can find it. But before we're running out of time, we need to give our closing. Right now, if everybody gives 2 minutes, we should be okay. I will start with you, Elvis. I will start with you. Go ahead. Give your closing.
All right. Thank you very much. Look, like our country's problem is an African problem. You know, in Africa, we don't have value added to most of our commodities, like Mr. Eastman said. You take the base, material or mineral, and you sell it to other countries, and they refine it, and they add value to it, and they sell it for a massive profit. So it's always lucrative for these companies to come into our countries and in Africa in general and buy these base materials or base minerals and take it to Europe and take it to Asia and United States, refine them and make a very huge markup. So you have to reverse that. You have to bring them into the country, all of their expertise and their machineries, and have Liberian people, Liberian workers who can work in those factories, gain some of the skills. That's what China did. China stole a lot of intellectual property for the U.S., gain some of that knowledge, and then open up their own factories and have their own workers. And the U.S. was not happy about that. I'm not saying we should do the same thing, but we should do something similar. Have these companies come in, open steel mills.
You can do the same thing. What do you have?
No, man, we won't be sitting the way happy. So when you change your mindset, like somebody mentioned Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a country right now in Africa that's doing very well in textile. You have people coming opening clothing companies in Ethiopia. You have some clothes you'll see manufacturing in Ethiopia, in Vietnam, countries that went through terrible civil wars. Vietnam, Indonesia, Cambodia. These are how these countries are developing. They're not selling their minerals. They're having companies come there for the cheap labor. They tax them. They get some of that intellectual property, and they move on from there. We need to move from the 1800s, move into the 21st century, have companies come into our nation where we can tax them and we can gain some of that intellectual property so that we as Liberians can develop, industrial economy ourselves rather than depending on mining concession that's only going to take our resources for pennies on the dollars. And these companies get rich off of us once they refine it and add value to it and sell it for a massive profit. So for me, I would like to see this happen in the next 20 years, if even maybe the next 10 years. But the government we have there now, I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe Alice Cummings government will look more into that, and we keep our finger crossed. After Boycott, maybe Cummings will be in there. But thank you for the show. It's a great show. I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tao. Go ahead.
Yes, I agree with a lot of pretty much when it comes to, because concession is a major issue here, right? And to a point, the Chinese just didn't steal intellectual property right. Let us get that straight, because this is a propaganda they ran. What the agreement was that no. I'm not saying they didn't steal any, but like the way they put it, I said they just stole. No, the agreement was you come in, use our labor, bring the factories, transfer of technology to us. So these things were actually given to them. What you saw here was once they saw that China rose so fast, because this is what they said. Oh, we give them this stuff. By the time we give it to them, it'll be 10 years old. We are too good. We're going to be 10 years ahead of them. but the people send their people to universities and stuff here, educated, went back, and they reverse engineer and they jump. You see the leap. So that was some of the stuff. I'm not saying they don't steal stuff, but like that, the only thing they just stole. No, there were agreement for it to actually be transferred. Okay, so let's clear that. But look, the tax stuff that we should bring them in and just tax them, taxing, right, should be on the very low end. We should go into joint ventures. Whether it's capable Liberians, whether it is a Liberian government, we should go into joint ventures. Because what it does is, okay, when we go into joint venture, you know what happened? If Asla Meta decided they're going to leave, they leave and that company still run. But when one man said they're leaving, Lamco said they're leaving, guess what? If it's just concession, the whole economy collapsed, right? Because they were the only one that was just taking things out. So let us go into joint ventures. Taxing should be on the low end. Let us produce some of these things, sell it in conjunction with them, and then let there be Liberian companies and government-run stuff. Let us also be selling fine gold or other stuff. So I think that is what we should be looking at. Let me tell you something. When you see anytime they have whether it's international community or Asian or whatever, right? Yeah. Whenever they refer to Africa or whenever the UN or whatever, when the forecast or World Bank, you will always hear what they will say, Africa development agenda. Africa development agenda. There is no development where industrialization. Any form of development that is not based on industrialization is temporary. You have to be industrious in order for your development to be sustained.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tao. Thank you, Mr. Tao. Thank you so much. But before I come to you, Mr. Eastman, please let me post this. Right after our show, we have Tithes and Offerings Part 2. Hello, Pastor. This is our presenter is Reverend Dr. Suku Archie. So it's right after our show. So please stay tuned to focus on Liberia, where we provide you with substantive, elevating conversations for our community. Mr. Eastman, your closing.
You know, we are talking a lot today, and these things are not unknown. I remember Gonglo, Alaric, and I know Mr. Nangbe who joins us from time to time. We used to talk about these things a long time ago. 40 years ago. So why is it lingering? Why all these things Mr. Tao is saying, we knew these things decades ago. But what is causing the dilemma? Why are we still find ourselves in the same position? And it's hard to say, but it's our politicians. Let me just reveal it. Our politicians, when they get to a position, they forget that they were there. They are there, hired by the people to do the bidding of the people. And that it's not as this knowledge, it has not been there, but we have yet to get politicians to do our bidding. So it's very important for us, we who practice democracy, to very strongly evaluate the candidate who we elect. And if they do not meet the standard they're supposed to meet, then we have to replace them. But that has been the problem. It's not a lack of knowledge, but we find ourselves in this, after 40 years, we've been talking the same thing, and we're still in the same place. Why? I think that's what we really need to look at. That's my closing.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank all of our audience. Thank you guys so much for joining us and being so faithful. Thank you for engaging in the conversation. We appreciate you guys. We've had a very good discussion this week. Thank you, Mr. Eastman, Mr. Morris, and Mr. Tao. Thanks for taking up your time. We appreciate it. We're going to log off now for our following show to come on. So stay tuned to focus, and as we provide you with another show. Thank you guys, and we'll see you again next Sunday. Our brother Jerome should be back, If they I'm not talking if they're not swallowing not going
Safe travel, Mr. Giving. All right, guys. See you next Sunday.
until next Sunday, audience, we'll see you.
We all love Iran. Love Iran is our home. Love Iran people.